Welcome, everybody. The Licking Knox Trauma Informed Care Leadership Committee would like to welcome you to this fifth session of the six-part Trauma Informed Care Lunch and Learn series. Today's session is minimizing risk and ensuring emotional safety. We'll get started in a minute as we only have a half an hour for the presentation, but it'll be followed by an optional 15 minutes of questions and answers for the presenter. So please complete the evaluation at the end of the session to let us know how we're doing and if there is additional information or training you'd like. While we're unable to offer CEUs due to the short length of each session, we will offer a certificate of attendance for those who are interested. So please include your name on the evaluation to receive your certificate. I've sent certificates out for sessions 1 through 3, and then we'll get the next ones out shortly. These sessions are being recorded for those who could not join us today. If you couldn't join us in any of the previous sessions, you'll find that on our website, lcfamilies.org, all of them that have been done so far. Sessions 1 through 4 are on our website. We'll also offer resource information, handouts, and PowerPoints to the attendees. And I sent the first 3 out with the certificates when I sent those. So we hope you enjoy and benefit from this session today. I'd like to thank the committee for putting this series together and welcome our presenter, Ronnie Boyer, who will introduce herself.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'm Ronnie Boyer, and I am the coordinator of whole child supports for Newark City Schools. And I just thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here together today to focus on something that's important to all of us. And we're going to just be together for about 30 minutes. There's some time for chat response, and there'll be time for questions and answers after the presentation. So please make sure if you have any, you can put them in the chat or just wait till the end and we'll get to those. And please do interact as much as you can, because we can learn more from each other than you can learn just from me. So thank you for being here. And we're going to talk today in our 5th session about minimizing risk and ensuring emotional safety. Just for a quick review of the ones that we've had before, we're putting this within the framework of trauma-informed care, which is a framework for providing services where we recognize the impact of trauma on people's lives. And for those of you who have been with us before, thank you so much for that. This is within the context of the presentations we've had already, but it also can stand alone. And when we think about delivering any type of service, so whether, we're in a variety of settings, you might be in a community organization, you might be within a school setting, medical, mental health supports, whatever it is, wherever you are, even within the context of your own family and those that you live with or grew up with. Trauma-informed care, trauma-informed practice, trauma-informed approach, all of these things, they mean the same in all of these places, but they may look a little different. And when we think of it, we're basing it on the understanding that trauma can affect all parts of a person's being, whether it's physical, psychological, biological, neurological, and our social development. There can be long-term effects, short-term effects, we know this. But when we approach things from a perspective of trauma-informed, we know that we're benefiting everyone. We're benefiting clients, their families, in the family system that they belong to, the communities, our schools, and any organization. And it provides an opportunity for improvement in any process that we're involved in, from assessments to delivering therapy, or even just enhancing the communication that we have with each other. I think it's important for us to always touch base with SAMHSA and the concepts that they have of any of these types of things that we're talking about. And just looking at this kind of quickly to remind us of what we've learned already and what many of us come to this time together already knowing. But when we think about it, we want to make sure that we're realizing how widespread the impact of trauma is, and that there are very few, if any of us as human beings who live on the face of this earth that have gotten through, our lives to where we are now free of it. So the trauma glasses that we've talked about several times throughout our presentations are always important to be wearing when we're interacting with each other. Also, within the context of SAMHSA, we like to focus on the 6 key principles of a trauma-informed approach. And you see these here. And when we're talking about ensuring emotional safety, we really are touching base or like overlapping with several of these principles. So yes, of course, it's safety, but we're also going to touch on transparency and trustworthiness, as well as empowerment, voice and choice. All of them are interconnected, related, and they don't stand in isolation of each other. So zooming right in on safety, it's a priority. And we have to be able to understand safety from the perspective of those we are serving. So anything, as we know, looks different to everybody. So safety might mean something different to me than it might mean to you, than it might mean to a child who's in a schoolroom. And it's important for us to think about it. It's a priority, and it's a high priority to think about it from the person's perspective that we're serving. And we also have just got to recognize that creating safe spaces and support systems is a priority. We want these to foster healing and to help grow resilience in each other. And this can only be done in the context of relationships. When we think about safety from just a basic definition, it tends to mean the state of being that's free from harm or danger or occurrence of risk, injury, or loss. And when you look at that, you can see why it could mean different things to different people, because harm and danger or loss, those things do mean different things. And what's scary to me might not be scary to somebody else. Injury pretty much covers everything for all of us. When we're ensuring emotional and physical safety, we want to think about it for all. And that also it involves protecting ourselves and others. And it's not just for some of the people, it's all of the people, all of the time. And throughout any organization, the staff and the people they serve, whether they're children or adults, and most of the time both, they need to feel physically and psychologically safe. So not just the people I'm serving, but for myself and my peers in my work environment as well. The physical setting must be safe, and the interpersonal interactions must also promote a sense of safety. And I want us to think about this within the context also of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Just keep this in mind whenever we're talking about trauma. We know that it gets right to the root of our basic needs, that they're being threatened, that they're not being met. And you see, safety is just barely one level up above the foundational needs of our basic needs, what we often call them physiological needs. So safety needs are imperative to us. And when we think of it within the hierarchy of needs from Maslow's theory, we remember that if one of these levels are not met, I'm not able to even think about the next level above it. And that helps us to remember too, why sometimes when we're working with families and we're maybe not understanding why their relationships aren't important, or maybe their health doesn't seem to be a priority. Well, if they're struggling and they are having food insecurity or homelessness, or even just any kinds of things like that, not being able to sleep well, their physiological needs are not being met, and they're at that lower level, that foundational level. We're not able to think about things like my friendships or my family and intimacy that you'll see on Love and Belonging. That's a higher level of need. Now, also, interestingly enough, when we talk about emotional safety, physical safety fits into the safety needs, that second level, the orange level, and our relationships or our sense of connection with each other, that's in the love and belonging. So We're not able to feel safe in our relationships if we're not safe in our home or in our environment or if we're hungry. There's definitely a difference, isn't there, between being physically safe and feeling psychological safe. And we'll be talking more about that physical part of it in our next presentation. So we're going to focus mostly on the psychological safety, our emotional safety. It's important to realize, though, that you can't have one, without the other. I'm not going to feel psychologically safe if I'm not physically safe, but both are very important. The physical safety, of course, is what we can see, right? It's not having to worry about any hazards or any harm or danger coming to me. I'm not worried about, getting hit by a car while I'm sitting here at my desk. And there are safety measures that are in place to help keep me physically safe. Psychological safety is more of the things that we are seeing on the surface, they're not tangible, but it does mean that it's an environment where everyone feels respected and valued, and they're able to express themselves without fear or negative consequences. None of these things that we're talking about today, it's oversimplifying them, I'm sure you realize, and it's not an exhaustive explanation. So there's lots of different ways to look at it, but just, for basic purposes, thinking of it from this perspective. And when you think about it, there's so many small things that we can do to help make each other feel safe. Even just asking if someone feels safe, what is their sense of safety in the setting that we're providing services? It's a really good, just solid first step that helps us to build relationships, focusing on them, having empathy, looking at things from their perspective, and it can help them to know that they are safe. And because we care, right? We're increasing awareness, and they can focus on healing and a really good partnership that way. So let's talk about how we can cultivate a sense of emotional safety. And as we're talking about this, I'd really like you to think about things that help you to feel safe, things that you do yourself to help others, and maybe things you've noticed, like, yes, I know this helps me to feel safe. Maybe you can think of a specific time or an environment or a place where something like this was done for you to help you feel more comfortable and at ease with the setting. Of course, we can create a welcoming environment, and that is subjective. However, there's generally some really basic things that fit into those categories. And think about it, you can just put some things in the chat. When we talk about creating a welcoming environment, could you put a few things in there that you think, what might that look like for you? So maybe the lighting, maybe not so bright, or soothing music playing, welcoming pictures, and we can be relaxed and calm ourselves. That's not always easy to do, especially when we're in high stress situations. Music is such a wonderful addition. Thank you. Oh, humming. I love that. That's good for engaging your vagus nerve and for helping others too. A friendly greeting. Oh, a smile goes a long way. Asking for the other person's input and listening and smiling. Yes, that's a beautiful way to welcome somebody and to create an environment of welcome and ease. Voice is low and slow. It's very important, especially when we're dealing with children, but you'd be surprised how much it impacts adults as well. I love it that more than one person hums. It is really good. We should be humming as much as we can just when we're on our own. Kindness just goes a long way. Providing some type of refreshment can be helpful. And we've mentioned the soothing music. I often try to help by breathing to the beat, and our breath is contagious. People can tell if we're nervous, and they can tell when we're calm and relaxed. Introducing yourself and being kind to everyone. I love that. It's so important that everybody knows your name and that we're kind and treating everyone the same. Again, this kind of speaks to our physical environment, but putting up art by a local artist, like getting that sense of community, encouraging words, phrases, peaceful nature scenes. A lot of times we'll see like a great scene with an encouraging word on it. I think that's like a double whammy on welcoming. Letting the person know what to expect, the agenda, where the restrooms are. Wow, that is an excellent suggestion. The more you can take away any unknowns, the better. That's really important. Being culturally sensitive is very important too, because some things in some cultures could be welcoming and in others they could be offensive. So really important to know our audience and know if we have a trend for one culture or another, to be able to be aware, be sensitive, and really embracing diversity and inclusion, being patient. We know that it's important to not pressure someone to answer questions. A lot of times they'll hesitate, and we're not always comfortable with silence. We tend to want to fill it in. So it really helps if we're able to just sit silently while someone's gathering their thoughts, and let them just at their own pace be able to answer our questions. Using positive, supportive, and non-confrontational language. It's surprising to me how many people in a school environment or maybe at the library, just a basic, more of a relaxed tone with someone can make such a difference. And I think sometimes we're confrontational and we don't even realize it. We also need to be very careful and sensitive to any triggers that someone might have, if it could remind them of past traumas. And I know we're all in different settings, but we do often have the background of the people that we're dealing with or the family that we're dealing with, and we want to be careful how we approach things. Sometimes I like to think of it too. I try to speak their language. And when I say that, I mean really basic things of how do they refer to a situation? Or say a family has a child with a disability. Some families may say, we're trained as professionals to use people first language. So to say, my child with autism. So I'm saying the person first, but some families will say, my autistic child, or my child with ASD, autism spectrum disorder. Some, you may notice, don't use the word at all. That's because it's still painful for them. They may not have processed it. I'm saying this as a mother of a child with autism myself. So I've learned that instead of deciding that there's a right or a wrong way, to try to pay attention to the person I'm speaking with or the family that I'm working with. How do they refer to it? Something that's happened to them, or their child with a disability, or maybe they don't speak of it at all. So being sensitive to potential triggers is really important. Being kind, which I'm so grateful so many people had put that in the chat. People's life experiences and even our own and our past trauma, it can make it really difficult to trust people, and especially people who are in a position of authority. And even though we may be trying to help someone, we might be their care provider, as a therapist, as a social worker, as someone who's trying to really do what we want, what is best for this family, we may, just in the nature of the relationship, feel threatening to them. So those things are really important to remember. And again, not a list that includes everything, but some really important highlights. So putting this back into the principles of trauma-informed practice, and you think about the things we talked about, you can tell that we've talked about the safety part. And I do want to also share some things about trustworthiness and choice and control. Okay. I like to say choice and control because you'll see it in different ways, right? Empowerment, voice, choice, control, one or the other, or all together. They're all very related. So what's the importance of choice and control? And thinking about it from the trauma lens, from that perspective, one of the big factors in trauma is that we lose our choice. It takes away our choice and control. That should be a really basic premise for why that's so important to give people choice and control as much as we possibly can. So that is part of creating this safety for people. When we're trying to create a trauma-informed healing environment, we would make sure we're making as many opportunities as possible for someone to find their voice, to use their voice, to have choice, and to have control over situations. These things a lot of times remind me of parenting classes, or when you're trying to find ways to strategies to use as a parent. Some of you may have heard with parenting the phrase forced choice. So those are things when your kid's gonna take a bath, whether they like it or not, but instead of telling your 4-year-old, let's take a bath, or you're taking a bath now, would you like to take a bath before dinner or after dinner? That's what we call a forced choice. Sometimes I hear service providers frustrated with this and thinking, like, what can I give someone to choose? You can give so many choices to a person. Would you like the lights on, or would you like the overhead lights off and the lamp on? What's your favorite songs to listen to? I can put this music on in the background for us. Would you like cold water, or do you prefer room temperature? Those types of things. So when you think about the list that we just went through, how many of those things can you give to someone to choose? Even if you've got a second grader in your office talking to you, they could choose fidgets out of a basket, for example. So all of those things give them their agency, and they have choice, and they have control. These things don't cost money, and they're not really complicated, but it can make a big difference. And we'll be driving home this point as much as possible. If there's one thing you remember in our time together today, healing happens in the context of relationships. And that's the relationships between families, between young people and providers. So all different relationships. And those things must be built. The relationships between those people must be built on mutual trust, respect, and empowerment. These things are what help us to feel safe. And we have to work within a partnership. That's a special kind of relationship where instead of having power over or power under or having any kind of power struggle at all, we're working together as a team and a partnership. That way we know we can be more successful in meeting the goals that we have together.
7
So
minutes.
Thank you. Touching on trust and transparency, the things that are important here to remember, I think, are just knowing that that's our goal, right? So our goal is to create trust with clients and family members, and even among other people that we work with in the organization. So again, the multiple relationships that are impacted are things we want to remember. It's hard to work in a situation where I might be trying to create emotional safety for clients or students, but if I don't feel emotional safe, that's challenging. So we have to think about it from the client and patient to the staff, but also everybody that's working around me, supervisors to their teams, and teams to administration. We know creating trust and operating authentically or with transparency is not easy. We got to be really intentional about it. And in order to do that, it's going to take time so that we can be honest with our communication and acknowledging, we have to be accountable to families and the students, clients, like I said before, and other providers. So to keep things in a framework where people feel they're in a trustworthy environment, here's just a few things, and you can add to the chat too, anything, even if it's one of these already, things that came to your mind. When we are making sure we're dependable, honest, and we have compassion and empathy, that really helps with trustworthiness. When we are, like we talked about, introducing and clarifying our role, clear information about expectations, patience, acceptance, letting people know ahead of time if transitions are going to happen, making sure we follow up, setting professional boundaries and maintaining them, and being consistent and patient. It takes time to build trust. And I think transparency and trust matter, and we all know why. I wanted to have some discussion about that, but we'll keep moving through. 30 minutes does go very quickly. Maintaining consistency is very important. And can you think of some ways that you provide consistency for others? Go ahead and put those in the chat, please. How are ways that you have provided consistency for other people? When we think about consistency, we know that it's stability over time, making sure we have a pattern of behavior that is consistent. So steady pattern of behavior, to be committed to something without deviating. So some ideas are information being consistent, routines is beautiful. That's a beautiful consistency, a tool of consistency to share, and that helps people to grow and to feel safe. Fantastic. Following through with what I say I will do. Beautiful, Laura. Thank you. That's so important, and it provides consistency, and it creates emotional safety. Thank you. Wonderful thoughts. So there we go. Emotional safety, just thinking about it again from a broader perspective. It's an experience or state of being in which a person feels safe to express their emotions. They have security and they have the confidence to take risks. And I see a little typo there, sorry, feel challenged and excited to try something new. So feeling safe and valued is vital to a child's development. And we were all children. If you had any kind of place in your childhood where you didn't feel safe, I'm sending you a big hug right now. And I'm also letting you know that that's all cherished parts of who we are, and it builds resilience, and it also builds empathy in us that we have for others. So we do need to feel safe for a kid in school to be able to learn, for an adult in therapy to be able to be open and heal and grow. All of these things require emotional safety. So think about things that help you feel emotionally safe, and just know this isn't anything like a mystery. It's all things that we all need. And what makes you feel safe is generally the type of thing that's going to make somebody else safe. So emotional safety is necessary for emotional connection, and connection is necessary to build relationships. Relationships are central to development, learning, healing, and growth. And I want to encourage you and help you to always remember, never underestimate the role you play in others' lives. Doesn't matter the context that you're in, if you're just seeing someone in a store, or it's someone that you're working with at work, or the mail lady, all of these things that we can do just by being who we are and natural caretakers create emotional safety for others. So I'd like to open this up for questions. And I do have references available here that will be included on the recording, or actually with the recording that we send out. And I do have a handout as well from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network that talks about trauma-informed child and family service systems, what they are. And it does a good job of breaking down things and listing them that create emotional safety. So thank you so much for being here. And I'd really love for any questions or anything you might want to add. I see that Sylvia shared some important things when it comes to consistency. If I have to enforce rules for a group to be consistent, if I make it an exception, explain it to the group, and then acknowledge and validate feelings and/or emotions. All beautiful things that really encourage people to participate, and helping them to feel safe so that they can do that. Yes, these handouts will be available. The PowerPoint will be available, and a link to the handout as well as a recording of this presentation will also be available. And all of the presentations will be available in that format as well. So you'll have a little baby library. Anybody else? What questions do you have about emotional safety? Its importance. And maybe you have examples that you would like to share of, like I was saying, times where you felt emotionally safe, or times and settings that you provided emotional safety for others. And I want you all to feel very emotionally safe, so I don't want to pressure you to answer a question until you're ready. Okay.
I'll go ahead and speak up. I haven't always worked in the mental health. In fact, this is my first mental health job, even though I have a degree in psychology. I've been a teacher. I've worked in the warehouse. And for me, the most emotionally safe I've ever been is in this job because my supervisor truly listens. And it's a wonderful feeling to know that you can talk to somebody and that they're there to support you in that way.
Thank you, Rachel. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So what I heard you saying that creates a sense of safety is being able to feel secure in knowing that somebody listens and that they're supportive to you. And I love that. And it like we were talking about too, it shouldn't matter what setting we're in, whether we're a teacher or we're working in a warehouse, or we all should be able to feel that way. Some of us don't get to feel that way at home, and even if you wouldn't necessarily call it a toxic environment or a dysfunctional environment, we all are not afforded the luxury of having someone that will listen and support us. So very important for us to be aware and recognize it when we have it. So great job recognizing that and sharing that gratitude with us. Thank you. And then also for us to keep ourselves emotionally safe enough to be able to provide it for others. So, it's something that always comes to mind for me when I help coordinate and support a team of people who are working with students and supporting their mental health. If we are in a place of stress and feeling unsafe, it is impossible to provide that safety for others. I'm glad you're getting what you need, Rachel. Thank you for sharing. Got to take care of ourselves and each other.
So Ronnie, first of all, virtually, you're able to be so calm, and I feel very safe, even virtually. Great job creating that environment. I'm like, I feel relaxed. But also, I work for Mental Health America. And that being said, with the executive director, Colleen and Ray, when I'm out in the field and working with the families and the parents, and you're getting a lot, you're getting a lot that we take on. But I feel safe when I can go back to my office and I have my boss, where I can just, I guess I'm going to call it trauma dump, and everything that I had to just take in, so I can be empathetic, so that I can create that emotional safety for the family or the clients, right? But I can go to the office and then, if I need to, I don't know, catharsis for myself, I mean, it's just, I love the fact that in comparison to working in corporate America, the big difference for us that get to work in these fields, just having the compassion and empathy from our coworkers and our community partners, and many of you on here, do that. We do that for each other. So just want to thank everybody here. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, especially you, Sylvia.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Thank you, Katie. Thanks for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
I really appreciate that, especially coming from you, someone that I have felt emotionally safe with and have seen you create these environments for others in multitudes of settings in your office or a coffee shop or wherever. So I really appreciate that. I recognized your voice and I was like, I think that's her, but I couldn't find you. So I was glad when I found you. Thank you. Yeah, and I love that what we can be for each other. And believe it or not, if you've grown up as a codependent person, not that I would know what that was, or a people pleaser or something like that, um, I tended to fight that tendency and feel ashamed of it for quite a long time in my life. And now I realize if we know who we are, how we're wired, we can use it to our advantage to be healthier. So sometimes, for example, I may not be motivated to practice self-care for myself, but when I think of it like, when I tell myself, like, when you go to work, if you're not doing well yourself, you're not going to be able to support the people you care about at work or your family. So take care of yourself, even if it's the motivation is for others. I'll take care of myself because I know that I can be there for others better. Well, again, I'm so grateful for this time together, and I really value each of you. I know I can't see all of your faces, but I see your names, and I'm holding space for you and for your life experiences and the way that I know that you're touching lives every day. So make sure you're creating that emotional safety for yourself, and we'll keep giving it to others. And I sure do hope you tune in next time. And Sylvia, can you help me with the date? We're going to have Sylvia and Cherie Nelson, and they'll be sharing with us more about creating a physically safe, like physical safety and the environment in which you provide services or interact with others. And what date will we be having that, Sylvia?
It's in 2 weeks on November 19th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I'll stay on for any questions and if people need to. And also, if you ever want to talk about anything or if you have something heavy on your heart or you have some good ideas that you might want to share and bounce around, I would love to talk with any of you. And you can find me at Newark City Schools. My contact information will be with this information that is shared. And I always welcome any of you to reach out. I would be absolutely thrilled. The more connections we have, the better for ourselves, our community, and all the people we serve. So thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Ronnie. If there is nothing else, any other comments, then we will close this session and then your evaluation will magically pop up and you can complete that. Thank you.